What if everything in the self-help aisle is just completely wrong? Today's deep dive takes our stack of sources on 200-year-old French clerk who believed the secret to happiness wasn't fixing yourself, but, redesigning civilization entirely. And if we did it right, the oceans would literally turn into lemonade.
Right. It is a pretty radical premise because, well, most modern thinking just assumes the system is a fixed reality, right?
Mhm.
And you, the individual, you're the patient that needs to be cured. Like, hustle harder, fix your mindset, wake up earlier.
Yeah, exactly. But the book we're exploring today flips that entirely. It's called The Lemonade Ocean, Charles Fourier and the Quiet Art of a Good Day by Boris Kriger. So our mission today is to look at a fresh idea from this text. Like, what if human beings aren't fundamentally broken, but our systems are?
Yeah, Krieger really reintroduces us to Charles Fourier here. He was this 19th century thinker, and while his contemporaries were busy inventing new ways to discipline the working class to fit into factories, Fourier proposed rotating the entire system around the human being instead.
Which honestly makes me think of modern UX design, like user experience.
Oh, how so?
Well, if a door has a handle, but you are actually supposed to push it, people will constantly pull and bump into it, right? A bad designer blames the user for being stupid,
Hmm.
but a good UX designer just redesigns the door. Fourier wanted to do that, but for all of civilization.
That is a great analogy. If work is making people miserable, you don't discipline the workers. You redesign the work to fit human nature. Though, I mean, as the title implies, Fourier was highly eccentric.
To put it mildly, yeah.
Right. He genuinely believed that if we achieved perfect social harmony, the earth would literally heal itself, and the oceans would lose their salt and taste like citrus lemonade.
A planetary UX redesign, complete with a beverage upgrade. I love it.
Exactly.
But how do we actually redesign society? Fourier thought we should build it around our passions, like our desires. Right? But I have to admit, catering to every passion sounds incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Isn't a relentless passion for money or power exactly what breaks a society?
Well, it sounds like a recipe for disaster, yeah. But Krieger's book brings a really crucial, fresh insight here. He argues we are actually misdiagnosing those desires.
Wait, how so?
So Fourier was designing around the wrong part of human nature because those intense destructive passions aren't natural, they are scars.
Scars. So you mean they are a reaction to something that went wrong?
Exactly. Think of it like drinking salt water when you were stranded at sea.
Wow. Okay.
The passion is an intense destructive craving for the salt water, but the actual baseline need is just hydration. So Krieger argues that, say, an obsession with status is really just a compensatory craving for a starved need to belong.
That makes so much sense.
Hmm.
We shouldn't design society around those distorted passions, but rather the baseline needs. You don't feed the addiction, you heal the underlying wound by providing fresh water.
Precisely. You have to design around what people actually need to thrive.
But what happens to those unmet needs for belonging and purpose if we take traditional work out of the equation? Because, with AI and automation rapidly advancing, human labor is about to become largely superfluous.
Which is fascinating because Fourier actually saw a rudimentary version of this coming.
Wait, really? 200 years ago?
Yeah, he proposed a guaranteed minimum for everyone, and Krieger updates this concept for our modern automated world with what he calls an invisible filter of income on request.
Okay, I want to make sure we understand how that actually functions.
Yeah.
It's not just the government handing out physical checks, right?
No, not exactly.
It acts more like a safety net you never see until you fall. Like a fraction of a cent from every digital transaction funds a universal pool. And if your bank account drops below a certain poverty threshold, it automatically tops you up.
Right, it catches you before you hit the ground.
Yeah.
And the mechanism is less about physical survival and honestly more about separating human worth from economic output.
Which is huge.
It really is. I mean, think about your own life. When you meet someone at a party, the very first thing you ask is, what do you do?
Always, yeah.
Right, so if machines eventually take over the doing, who are you?
If your basic needs are met without the coercion of having to sell your labor, you are finally free to figure that out. You aren't just surviving a badly designed system, you are actually free to seek meaning.
Which brings us to Krieger's quiet revolution in the book. If we decouple our worth from our labor, we need to completely redefine success.
Redefine it how?
Well, it shouldn't be about massive vertical achievement or climbing a corporate ladder anymore. Success should simply be establishing a baseline of a day without harm.
A day where no one was hurt and nothing was destroyed, just existing peacefully.
Exactly. It shifts the goal from constant stressful growth to sustainable harmony.
It is a beautifully simple metric. So
Yeah.
think back to that self-help aisle we started in. What if you stop trying to fix yourself to fit a broken door?
It changes everything.
It really does. As you go about your routine today, leave yourself with this thought. If you stripped away your job, your achievements, and the societal pressure to always be productive, what would you actually need to consider today a success?